Welcome, grade 2, to yet another English lesson. And this time around, it's gonna be an interesting lesson because we are reading. It's story time. So our topic today is the fool and the donkey. The fool and the donkey. This story we find it on page 52 in our learner's books. So, before we start, we have some words that will meet in the story, and some words we have done them in our lesson 1, words that have double O sound, like fool. You get to meet that word. You also get to meet words like new. You also get to see words which also have the oo sound in that story. So when you meet them, you should know how to read them. I have also written for you here, so to read the story fluently. How do you read the story fluently? You would have known the words that are in the story. But if you don't know them, you can use your phonics knowledge or the word patterns or your knowledge about syllables to read the new words, to tackle the new words. So I'm going to read the first paragraph like we always do in class, and you also take turns to read the other parts. But now you won't be taking turns because it will only be you reading the story. The Fool and the Donkey, an Iranian folk tale. This is a folk tale. It's things that didn't happen, they were just created. Once upon a time, a fool went to buy a donkey. There were many donkeys at the store. Some were big and some were small. Some had long ears and some very short. But among them, there was one donkey that had long, floppy, silky ears. Wow, what a description. You should also remember the describing words that we learned so that you'll get to, when you see them in the story, you know how to read them. I've read some here, I've read big, I've also seen small, long, short, floppy, long, silky ears. So we have to answer some questions on page 55 when you had finished reading the story and understood it. Questions like, who stole the donkey? You get to see it, to see the person who stole the donkey in the story. By also answering this who question, you have to remove who and replace it with the person, and the rest of the sentence will remain the same. Like in the story, you see that Amir and Nori stole the donkey. Those two naughty boys, they stole that donkey. So you just replace it, you remove who and add Amir and Nori, but the rest of the sentence, stole the donkey, remain the same. And what do? We remove this question mark and replace it with the full stop, because it is now a sentence, not a question like this one. Let's go on. Do you remember something? What is a character? I hope you remember we said a character is a person in the story, and there can also be a lot of characters in a story. Like all those stories that we read from before, we could meet some people like mom, dad, and that boy who was feeling tingly. There was also grandma mentioned in that story. Those are characters. And in this case, you also tell me how many characters you see. From what I just read about a fool. So we already have one character, which is the fool. Let's go on. What is a setting? A setting is a place where the story happened. And we could also have many settings of where the story was happening. Remember when we were reading that story about that boy who was feeling tingly, we say that they started at home, so we had a home setting, and we also had another setting when they were going past the park and all that. So we can also have more questions like, who are the characters in the story? You get to tell me those characters. From the following settings, which of the two settings are in the story? Like a big modern city, a town a long time ago, a dark pond, a house near a town. You get to find out which setting did we talk about in that story, and you also write them down for me. Good luck reading the sentence, the story, and all the sentences in there from the story that you're going to get. Please write using good handwriting. Remember, we put our full stop at the end of a sentence. We also use our finger spacing. Good luck reading the story. See you next time.